If you have a website and it isn't performing as well as you would like it to, it may come down to specificity and contrast. Hello, I'm Shane from Thrive Themes and welcome to another website review. So this is a website sent in by one of our readers, and I want to go through and talk about what I would do to improve the performance of this site. The site we're looking at today is this one right here. It's called Chic Divas of Travel, and what we're looking at right now is the homepage. Now, as I like to do in these reviews, of course there's a lot of things we could say about this website and this business. I like to find a few elements that I think make the biggest difference, and that even if you're not the owner of this site, you can apply yourself. And two things that stood out to me and that we can see right here on this homepage are specificity and contrast. It's also an example, by the way, as we're looking at this is an example of why I generally recommend not using sliders, because it's actually quite difficult to get anything out of this because it keeps changing, right? It's quite nervous. It's just not very nice. This would be a lot more effective as a static image with a simple message, because right away, what is the thing about this website? What is the USP here? It's very hard to tell because the message keeps changing. And this brings us to our first point, specificity. If we read the messages, what's your adventure, live your dreams, let's get together, your special destination. Next one, are you a hockey fan? Let's embrace some action. What is this about? Explore your possibilities, create and inspire. This is perhaps the best example. Explore your possibilities, create and inspire. What does that mean? Who specifically are you talking to with this message, and what are they supposed to get out of it? All of this is very vague wording. It doesn't tell me anything. And part of the reason is that we always have like these 2 lines of text, right? It's like 5 words in the first line, maybe 5 words in the second line. That's it. What I would do here is I would have one clear headline that states who your service is for, right? What niche, what kind of person is this for? And what you offer them that nobody else can offer them. And you can use more words for that. You can have a 2-line headline, and you can have a larger subheading, or basically more text in your subheading to explain what you are about. And the other thing is, a lot of this text is quite difficult to read. Depending on, like this here, the explore disappears almost entirely. A lot of it is difficult to read because of the way the image in the background has about the same lightness as the text on top of it. If we scroll down here, we have more examples of this, like here the buttons practically disappear, right? There's basically no contrast with these buttons here. Here's another one of those. These are some things, so that is like contrast. That's something you need to pay attention to. Anything that needs to be easy to spot and that you want your visitor to either be able to understand and read or be able to interact with should have a high contrast. So it should be ideally light on dark, right? Bright color on a plain background, or bright color on a dark background. Strong contrast makes things discoverable and draws attention. And so having something like a headline, which is a very important element, but with bad contrast like here, is, well, that's the worst case scenario. That's what should never happen. I will link to one of our other posts where we discussed this as a general problem and also the solution to it as well. So below the video, you'll find a link to that. Now, that's contrast. To get back to specificity, there's more of it here. This has become a very typical layout where it's like, the 3 things, right? The 3 features. It says, work with us, luxury spas, and travel the world. And we have another problem here, which is that, again, that it lacks clarity, or it lacks specificity. You have to assume that with something like this, people will look at the icon and read the title first before they will read several lines of text. And if the icon and the heading doesn't grab someone's attention, they are not going to read this. So no matter how good your copy here is, people are simply going to ignore it if you don't first win them over. In this case, these icons are very generic. They're also very small and relatively low contrast. And the titles basically tell me nothing, right? Work with us, but I have no idea what that means in this context. Luxury spas seems totally unrelated to this icon. And travel the world, well, it's a travel agency, that's nothing special. So this section here, I think, entirely fails to capture the reader's attention, and it's mainly because of a lack of specificity. So you have to be much, much more precise. And what it comes down to is you have to have a very clear idea of who your typical visitor is and who you want to appeal to. You have to have an idea of what a very clear and exact message is that might resonate with those visitors. To give you an example of, for myself, because I travel a lot and I'm essentially a business traveler because I'm always working. So one of the things that, as an example of a specific message that would get my attention, would be if there was a subheading here that says, "We always find you cheap accommodation with fast Wi-Fi." That's something that matters to me. When I stay somewhere, I want to make sure that I have fast, reliable Wi-Fi so that I can do my work. And that's a very specific message that only appeals to a very narrow band of travelers. But that's an example of something that would get my attention. Other people might not care, but you'd have to know, am I the kind of person you want to talk to, or is it someone totally different? I mean, one of the pictures here is about a wedding. So are you talking to honeymooners? What matters most to honeymooners? What's a very specific message that honeymooners will relate to? And so you have to know who your target audience is and make specific promises to them, or make specific statements that are meant to attract their attention. So that's the home page. We've looked at some things. One more thing I want to show on the blog. It's kind of a continuation of the same problem. First of all, it takes quite a long time to load, which isn't very nice. But here we have another thing where we have a fairly messy blog layout. There's nothing, there's these images, but like these titles, there's nothing special about these titles, and there's nothing really here that will make me stick around. And really what we have here is just a lot of stuff, none of which really is attention grabbing. And so what you should do is change the layout, maybe change the way you create the images, or change the titles. That would probably be the most effective thing, to work on the titles, to make those more interesting, to make sure that people actually care and find something that they really, really want to click on. And that's also something that you can use our plugin Thrive Headline Optimizer for, to actually test which headlines get the most clicks. So that is my take on the two most important things missing from this website, and maybe missing from your website as well: specificity and contrast. Let us know if you have any other questions about this, or any other suggestions for this website in particular, by leaving a comment below.